Well, before this month, 3 championship points. Yes, that puts him ranked 12th, which I believe is also where he's seated right now. No, not quite, 13th.
Excellent. Well, I mean, that's still looks like he's going to be able to build on that point total coming into round two, especially if he can take down John Dash here. But they're both going to get started. Looks like Dars is a little yellow starved to start on this board, but making progress, setting up an L here and getting this dealt with very cleanly, actually. But he is falling slightly behind to John Nash, who has not too far ahead, but does seem to have a better board overall.
Both of them are a little spired on the right side of their board, but there's more variety in John Nash's top line than there is in Dar's, it seems. John Nash just only has a few yellow viruses left tucked away in the corners of his board, though.
Yeah, this is gonna be sort of the same situation Dar's at the start of his level, but it's coming back for John now at the end of the level. Whereas Dars is also running out of yellows, but is a lot like has a much more open board. All of his viruses are sort of separated, and nothing's really blocking anything. So he's making quick work of it. But John is not too far behind here. It looks like they're both going to finish approximately the same time.
John Nash is going to set up for the horizontal on those last two reds, and he's going to have to wait on some blue fragments while Darce has to wait on some red.
It looks like John is gonna get out just a moment sooner, but not by much. Looks like they're both about a second apart going into the next level.
Limited yellow on the top line for John Nash to start, but a nice little even setup right there. Everything's just set up for zero drop clears.
Yeah, Dars's board also looking very doubled up. A lot of viruses of the same color doubled together here to be cleared much quicker, which is always great to see. A lot of them are arranged horizontally, though, so if he wants to do it as optimally as possible, it's not going to be simple. It's going to require some setups and some careful planning.
An interesting situation for Dars here on this level 9. He doesn't have any blue to work with, and he had some horizontal potential, but it reached a point where a horizontal would create a bit of a garbage situation.
All right. Looks like Darz is officially at a blue access now until he can clear this yellow garbage. Oh, that can't be
Hmm,
intentional.
that might have been a brief moment of color blindness.
Or just finger paralysis. Hard to say sometimes. But looks like it's mostly cleared up now. It is only putting him slightly behind, but virus count now looks like John is about to get out while Dar still has gonna roughly have about probably 10 left by the time he gets out. Not even 12. John's out at 310 and he's moving on, taking a pretty significant lead, I would say.
Yeah, that is definitely a significant lead, not just in terms of virus count, but looking at Dar's board right now, he's really limited in what can actually help him right now.
Yeah, he's
That
coming into his end game now, and it's really just going to come down to getting the pieces he needs at this point. There's really he's set up everything he can set up, and now it's just up to the doctor to bring him home.
and the doctor just wants to keep him in the doctor's office as long as
Well,
he can, it looks like.
yes, as he's known to do.
Yep.
But Dars will finish it out at 350 here. About a half a level behind at this point is going to need some, probably some good RNG here to make a comeback like this. But there's still 2 levels to go, and anything can happen. So we're gonna have to see how this level shapes out for him.
John Nash is being forced into setting up some bracket clears. He's shaking his head a bit because he's getting all these yellow fragments that he doesn't really need right now. Just trying to find a way to efficiently get through all this red and yellow up top.
Yeah, and it's not even like he was out of places to put yellows, but sometimes the pill halves just work out in such a way where you can't cleanly stack them on top of the board, and things get muddled in that way.
Yeah. Sometimes that's just how things are, and right now, though, it looks like he's in a pretty good position. He's managed to clear up the bottom of his board. Meanwhile, the lead has dwindled down to 13 viruses.
Yeah, Dars is making some really he was making some really great horizontals very high up the board, which, if you can manage to pull that off is always helpful.
By clearing out this yellow tucked away in column 7, he will be able to clear out those two yellows with just a couple of pill fragments if he can get there. This double blue is going to set that up perfectly.
Okay, John is moving on to the final level here, and honestly, looks pretty decent. Even mix of all colors near the top, it looks like. Red is starting to become a bit of an issue, but the pills are working out in his favor, it looks like, and he's making quick work of the beginning of this final level.
Column 8 looks really tricky for Dars right now. That's going to help it big time, though.
I think he played that very well. He was really not wanting to lock the blue and the red in the bottom right corner and lock himself out from clearing it and causing a bunch of garbage. So I think he handled that about as well as he could have.
Yep. He's going to be out of 10 very soon, but John Nash has 29 viruses away from taking game number 1.
It's going to really come down to the level that he gets here. Oh, misdrop from John Nash on the top of those reds. That could
Oh,
come
that
back
was
to
a
bite
nice
him here.
combo, though.
Yeah, it did work out in that way, but still covering his only one of his only reds there. He's gonna have to figure it out. It's always bad to make garbage of the same color that you need the most for clearing viruses because it just puts extra pressure on how many blues you're gonna get, and if you don't get enough of them, it can really slow you down.
Yeah. That might have been ultimately been a product of hesitation because he might have not really been sure what to do with the pill that he got.
Yeah, hesitation is always going to cause issues. It's really important to be able to make all your moves as decisively as possible and not let hesitation cause misdrops and things like that. But John Nash recovered from it pretty well. Is almost completely out of blue, but is pretty much clear on everything, and just needs to get 9 viruses out of his way, and he'll have game one in the bag.
Speaking of needing blues, looking at the board that Dars is dealing with right now, there's
He's
just a lot of blue to deal with.
Yeah, he's gonna get a great horizontal red clear there, and it's gonna open things up on the left side. But this Spire in 6 is something he's been ignoring, and I don't know if he is prioritizing it like he should be. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue here for him. But it looks like John is finished at 742, and that's gonna be game one to him.
Just so much blue dependency. Dars was trying to make a comeback, but he just couldn't close the gap in time.
And honestly, most of the time, it doesn't really feel like it's anything that the player did. There are times where maybe you prioritize things incorrectly, but for the most part, a lot of the time, it's just because just didn't get the blues or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. It's not what you did, it's what the doctor didn't
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
So GG's to both players. Game 1 to John Nash.
All things considered, only a 30-second difference between the two, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't expect this to be anywhere close to over. Dars just needs to make sure he plays solid in the next 2 games if he wants to bring it back.
Dars is a very capable player. Let's see if he can take game 2 and push us to another decider.
Dars false starting again. He just can't wait to play. I love the enthusiasm.
Yes. All right, both players appear to be ready.
Savage calling on Dars's beast mode to activate. We
Three,
can
two,
only
one,
hope.
pills. And we're off. John Nash is the first out the gate, and not far behind is Dars, and we are off.
Uh, First, I didn't really. Yeah, it looks like the board is relatively mixed now for John. I think at first yellow was a bit of a concern, but he's managed to pierce down into the bottom layers of the level. So if he has some yellows he needs to place, he'll at least have somewhere to put them. But now blue is starting to become an issue. But what a great setup to make use of those blues and avoid making garbage unnecessarily. Now both players looking like they're incredibly red dependent, especially in the case of John Nash, where I'd say at least 80% of his viruses are red, and he's only about halfway through the level.
It certainly looks that way. I mean, both players could really use a lot of red at this point.
Yeah,
It's
Dars is
just
in very much the same situation, it looks like, yeah.
Dars is just throwing pills away into column 8 now that it's completely clear, and he was starting to run out of room in that column.
Yeah, it's
I like
always sorry, go ahead.
I like that he's was kind of piling garbage on top in column 7 there because he can clear that red underneath whenever he wants to. That will put a little bit of garbage on a little bit of blue garbage on top of, well, there he already cleared it out. So looks like
Yep.
he's setting up the bracket clear for column 4.
Perfect. So I think he wants to get these reds before the yellows, maybe even get a cross clear here. But this red in the bottom left for Dars is totally blocked off from every side, and John comes in and gets through the level first, out at about 140. And Dars is going to be stuck here in 8, trying to get this all the blues out of this way of this red, so he can finish the level. And even now, the it's in a very awkward position. He's going to have to create a drop combo here. Meanwhile, John Nash is already making quick work of 9 and really starting to pull ahead.
Shaking his head a little bit, probably just because he didn't want that little blue garbage fragment right there. Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, those kinds of end games are always really frustrating.
Looking at John Nash's board, he's all set up for to horizontal those yellows in the middle of his board. What he needs to finish it off, though, is specifically a yellow red, unless he decides to just stack another red fragment right there, which gives him a lot more options to play with right there.
Yeah, that was an excellent combo from John Nash. You don't really haven't really been seeing those kinds of setup from either of these players in this match as of yet, but John is proving that he's more than capable of doing so when the situation requires it for sure.
R's looking for a yellow fragment so he can get this drop combo going.
Yeah, both
Nice little
players relatively clear. John is a real cluster in the bottom right though, and it's covering up his only yellows. So that might be what Dars needs to come back, and he has actually taken the lead now in virus count.
been a really interesting game thus far. You can see Dars is really trying to figure out his endgame setup right now. It looks like he's all set up to do a big drop combo onto this blue and set up the horizontal clear beneath it.
Yep, it looks like he's got a plan in place, and now with when this red clears out, the yellow horizontal will be exposed to take him at a level 9, and he'll do so at 338.
Very good
John
time so
Nash,
far.
not far behind, actually. I thought it was
Four,
a much bigger lead than that, but he's really managed to bring it back, and he's out maybe 3 or 4 seconds, if that, after Dars.
yeah, I'd say about 3 seconds. Right now, Dars is dealing with. It's not that his top line lacks variety so much as that it can't really accommodate every pill.
Yeah, even sometimes if you have the variety, it can sort of not really matter if the placement it doesn't match up with the split pills that you're getting. But it looks like he's managed to clear most of that garbage away now. Um, he's got a much clearer board now. Not much garbage to speak of. Neither does John Nash though, and both of them are neck and neck yet again.
Great T set up there from Dars to pull back within. Well, it now he's ahead by 2, but while I'm in the middle of my sentence. That's just the nature of this whole thing.
It's hard to comment on virus count. These players just are sending it back and forth so quickly, especially when it's neck and neck like this. This is starting to get exciting here.
This is awesome play from both players so far. Very efficient clears, very clean boards. John Nash really has no use for red at this point, so that might ultimately decide who gets out of 10 first. But it looks like Dars is setting up for that fat log, but instead of going for the fat log, he's going to clear it one row at a time, which is not a bad
Mhm.
idea.
He's set up to clear this blue horizontally at the bottom, but I it's hard to say if it's going to clear out the way he expects it to. I think it should be fine. There's just going to be this yellow in the way now, and now everything is covered for him. So I'm not sure if this is going to trip him up long enough to let John pull ahead.
It's interesting selection of moves here, but right now his horizontal has been cleared up, so he should be able to get through. But John Nash has just gotten out in a 550 and at about 552 for Dars. So once
Yep.
again, neck and neck going into the final level.
It's worth noting that Dars is about a second and a half on the timer behind John Nash. So really, they pretty much finished their level 10s at the exact same time. So they're coming into this final level dead even.
John Nash really waiting for this horizontal on the Reds.
All these setups are always a gamble. That's
And
an
that's
amazing double red, but it doesn't clear the horizontal.
and I know it was super tempting to go through for that T, but it would have ruined his horizontal play up top as well.
Mhm.
So probably a smart move on his part.
Dara's starting to pull ahead in virus count now. No blue access to speak of on his board, dropping some garbage down. Has a setup for this red horizontal. Looks like he might just be doing a T setup here, but not making as much progress as you'd like to in a situation like this.
Every move counts when the game is this close. There's a
Every
bit
yeah,
of a yeah, there's a bit of a valley in John Nash's board, and there's a lot of red to deal with. There's also a lot of red for Dars to have to deal with, and this T is going to help clear out a bunch of garbage as well as some of the viruses on his board.
Yep, red access getting a little dicey for him now, whereas John Nash doesn't have a whole lot of spots left for blues. Just putting a double blue straight on top of a red, hoping for a drop, clears the garbage away. But now setting up this red horizontal in the bottom left. Both players at 16 apiece.
It's going to be close. Dars is trying to perhaps clear out those blue fragments in column 4 so he can free up the horizontal red clear.
Oh yeah, he's got a very tricky setup situation on his board, and if he miscalculates something, that could be it. This is where the games get
Oh,
tense.
yes, that is exactly what he needed right there. It is tied at 7. John Nash's board is a lot cleaner and a lot easier to deal with right
Dars
now.
has like a double traffic light in the bottom left, and I don't know if it's gonna be if he's gonna get what he needs to clear that out as quickly as he needs to.
John Nash is going to be out in
Oh,
8:15. That that whole traffic light situation, that end game made all the difference between John Nash and Dars, and it's going to be John Nash taking this in a sweep.
very excited about that. I'm always sad to see a fellow Canadian get eliminated, but Dars put up a hell of a fight.
Absolutely.
GG's.